We'll pick up right where we left off, chapter 9. But she didn't change her mind the next day or the one after that. By Thursday, William had come to dread his afternoon trip to the attic. "How is she?" he'd asked the Silver Knight, who came up to the upper wall walk at the sound of his footsteps. "The same," was his inevitable reply. "She is not eating well, and I can hear her pacing long into the night." William tried everything. In the early morning, he brought her breakfast, small bits of toast sprinkled with butter and Marmite. In the afternoon, when he got home from school, he brought her hot tea. He allowed Sir Simon to light a fire in the fireplace in her bedroom, even though he was worried that the whole castle might go up in flames. He cut curtains for her narrow windows out of some red velvet material from his mother's sewing closet and gave the knight some English postage stamps to paste on her wall. But nothing seemed to work. He had not even seen her since the first day he brought her to the attic. One afternoon, Sir Simon reported that the giant had been up to visit. "Which one?" William asked. "The one you call Dad. He walked all around the castle and then knelt down and spread some ribbon from one corner to the other. Most peculiar behavior. I was watching him through the arrow loop in the wardrobe." "That was my father," he said. "He wanted to build a moat for the castle. I wonder if he's really going to do it. Did he see you or Mrs. Phillips?" "No, he was not here long. I think she considered calling to him for help, but I persuaded her it would be of no use. The only thing that can restore her to the normal size is the other half of the token." "If only she'd let me explain," William said for the 100th time. "She told me last night that she will not come out of her room until you come in and get her," the knight said slowly. "But she knows I can't do that," William cried. "I'm too big." There was a brief silence. "I think that's what she means, William," the knight said. "She wants me to be small too. She wants you to see how it feels." "But how would I ever get big again? I'd be trapped in there." Even as he said the words, he knew what the knight was thinking. That was exactly what he had done to Mrs. Phillips. "You were part of it too, Sir Simon. It wasn't just my idea. We were both too hasty. She was made small against her will, William. There is no changing that now. Every day she spends here, she loses time in her own world. But I have an idea. Meet me by the drawbridge." William lay down on the floor near the front entranceway to the castle. Slowly the drawbridge was lowered. Sir Simon walked out to the edge of the bridge. Then he turned and pointed up at the riddle written above the castle doors. Once again William read it. "When the lady doth ply her needle, and the lord his sword doth test, then the squire shall cross the drawbridge, and the time will be right for a quest." "So what?" he said. "We have the lord, and we have the lady. We are only missing the squire." Sir Simon said, "Think about it, William." Without another word, he went back inside and raised the drawbridge for the night. The next day, William waited for Jason after school. He needed desperately to talk to somebody. Jason looked surprised to see him. "Want to bike into town?" William suggested, cautiously. "I have to get some food for dinner." Sure. I don't have anything better to do." They pulled their bikes out of the rack and headed out to the main road. "How's the castle?" Jason asked, drawing up alongside. Okay. Mrs. Phillips left last week. She said to say goodbye to you." "I didn't think she was going that quickly." The traffic was bad, and the two of them had to concentrate on steering for the rest of the ride into town. Jason did seem a bit surprised when William led him through the grocery store to the vegetable section along the rear wall. "Ginger, broccoli, soy sauce. That's it. We've got the flank steak at home." "What's the deal?" Jason asked. "My father and I are cooking Chinese the nights that Mom works late. Want to have dinner with us tonight?" Jason shook his head. "I'll let you practice for a couple more weeks," he said with a grin. "Want to come back with me now?" "Sure." William was glad he didn't have to talk about his problems right there on the sidewalk. When they got home, he walked through the house, turning on the lights. "I always do that first when I get home," William explained. Jason nodded. "Must be weird coming home to an empty house after all the years of Mrs. Phillips being here. Kinda neat, too. I wish my mother wasn't always hanging around asking me about my day at school." They settled down at the kitchen table with 2 big bowls of cold cereal. "Jason, what if you had a friend who really needed your help, but you couldn't help him unless you changed yourself?" said William. "What do you mean?" "Well, pretend somebody was beating me up, and your glasses got knocked off, and you couldn't find them. Would you try to do something anyway?" Sure, but I wouldn't be much help." But would you try and fight the guy off anyway? William asked. Well, I wouldn't go away and leave you if you were in trouble like that. That's what I thought you'd say. What's this all about? Jason asked. William wanted to tell him everything, all about the castle and the Silver Knight and what he'd done to Mrs. Phillips. He knew Jason would not laugh at him, but he also knew that keeping the secret to himself was part of what he had to go through. He'd gotten himself into this mess, and he had to get himself out. I'm doing a story for English class, and I'm not sure how it's going to end, he said. It was a lame excuse, but Jason didn't question him further. Maybe when it's all over, I can tell Jason about it, William thought later that night. When I come back, if I come back. He sat up in bed. If I'm talking about coming back, I must have decided to go, he said to the empty room.